Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. The price of diesel is set to increase tomorrow, while the cost of petrol is to decrease. According to the Road Freight Association, this will continue to have an impact on the freight logistics industry and a knock-on effect for consumers. We speak now to the association's Gavin Kelly for more on this. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. How much of a dent does this increase have from a road freight logistics perspective?
Good afternoon, Paul, and good afternoon to all your viewers. Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. We've seen over the last couple of months that the price of diesel has continued to increase, and some months it's been a little bit more than the 10 or 15 cents we're seeing tomorrow, but each little increase in the price of diesel has an effect. So when we started at the beginning of the year, fuel played around about 48% of the operational costs of a transporter. Now we're looking at closer to 58%. That's a huge change. And of course it means that both you and I are going to start paying more for whatever's transported by road, definitely by something that uses diesel.
So let's look perhaps at the broader picture from a value chain perspective, looking at what consumers pay for goods and even some services. What does this increase mean for the already constrained consumer? I mean, you make mention of a bit of the impact on the consumer, but how wide is it?
Well, it's going to affect anybody in the first instance that requires a truck to move their goods or a vehicle to move their goods. So even if it's just a farmer, when I say just a farmer, even if it's a farmer at the very beginning who needs to move his or her produce to a market or to a processing facility, they are going to find that their transport leg is going to become more expensive. And that's going to go up by a good 2 or 3%. Over the last couple of months, we've seen a fair amount of fuel coming in. So we're going to see an increase there. And of course, that continues. So once those goods get to, let's say, the processing or the market, there's going to be either a markup for someone who buys those goods and takes them to a retail store, or for somebody who comes along and gets them and sells them on the side of the road. So every time we have goods that move in the supply chain or in the logistics chain or along a road, there's going to be this continuous pressure to increase the price because of the transport cost. And of course that means when you add all of these various legs together, what you and I might have paid R1 for in the store we went to yesterday, that might turn into R1.10 or R1.20, depending on what the markups are of the various links in the chain.
And going even deeper into the intricacies of the business, which will be affected, transporters will not be able to perhaps muster the guarantees required for purchasing fuel. How does that process work?
Well, in Paul, there's really two systems that most transporters use when running their transport companies and when buying fuel. So there are some transporters who will buy fuel in bulk. They get a slight discount in terms of that. It's not a huge discount, but they'll buy it in bulk. And obviously, to do that, you're going to need to have some sort of cash resources. Some transporters might have cash. Others would have a facility or a loan. So they would buy the fuel on a credit basis, and they would then get the fuel delivered to their depot or perhaps fill up at a retail outlet like we know them, we see them around the country. And then as they had trips or did work for people, they would get revenue in and they would then pay against that facility or that credit line they'd have. Others would go to the garages and buy the fuel at a pump price and use the cash they have. Now, this is a problem if you don't get paid immediately after having done the job. And that's one of the biggest challenges in the freight and logistics industry, is that transporters get paid sometimes up to 90 days after they've done the actual transportation job. And in the meantime, you're wanting to do other transport jobs to ensure that your business keeps operating. So it's really around having the cash reserves or the facilities to be able to continually buy fuel at the increasing price, and more importantly, being able to pay that back or generate revenue through transporting to get that facility as down as much as possible. The challenge is, as transport costs increase, you can find that your customer as a transporter starts to have a bit of a problem with the increasing price and could use somebody else, or decides not to use that transport anymore. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Let's leave it there for now. There seems no alternative for transporters. Of course, giving us an insight on the developments around there, Gavin Kelly, Chief Executive Officer for the Road Freight Association.